Hey guys, I'm going to be doing a 10.20 patch preview. Right now in 10.19, it's the meta's in a pretty good spot. There's Brawler Ashe, there's Dusk Riven, and there's also Reroll Aphelios. That's one of the newer ones that recently got into meta. And even though right now they're buffing Aphelios, I actually don't think it'll be out of tune, and I'll tell you why. But overall, I think there's more buffs than nerfs. The Riven buff nerf isn't even a nerf, it's only nerf to Riven 3. But chances are you're never hitting Riven 3 anyway. Just to get started with the biggest change of the patch, and it's the champion shop. At level 8 right now, the chances of seeing a 4 cost per slot is 25%, and that's going to be toned down to 20%. I think they're trying to get rid of the amount of 3-star tier 4s that you're seeing. And I kind of agree that a 3-star tier 4 is pretty ridiculous in terms of strength. And I do see it really often because of the chosen mechanic. I don't think this is the correct change for it, but what's done is done, and I'm just going to talk about how this impacts the game. With the odds of a 4 cost going from 25% to 20%, that just makes you less inclined to go fast 8, because a lot of times when you're going 8, you're trading a lot of HP for the roll odds on 8 because it's worth it. Rolling 40 gold on 8 is probably more valuable than rolling, let's say, 70 gold on 4. But now that you have to sack some more HP just for slightly increased odds, it's probably not as worth it. And then not only that, because of these roll odds, more people are inclined to spike on 7. So a lot more people are going to be rolling on 7, and not only that, you're going to be losing more HP than you would before. And not only that, more people are going to be probably playing roll comps, because people that aren't playing the reroll comps aren't going to spike as hard on 4-5 either. So basically, it kind of just speeds up the pace of the game. But I'll say how that affects comps in a bit. So with the traits, Occultist 3 nerf, this should have been hotfix, to be honest. I think that 3 Cultist was too strong, and even now, I still think it's going to be strong. It's definitely not going to be uncontested the best opener there is. I think one strong opener, I'll get into it later when I actually read it, but Cultist 3 definitely toned down, or tuned down, still going to be strong. Dusk, I think 6 Dusk is still really strong because it still gives the Dusks an extra 70%, but the tone down from 50 to 40 is definitely reasonable. I think 6 Dusk was a little too strong. That's fair. I still think Dusk is going to be good. The Keeper Shield is only a buff to 6 Keeper, and I really can't believe that this is going to change anything. I think maybe I just think you never really go, like, I can see 4 Keeper as a mid game, but late game, as you go later and later, positioning your team around Keeper actually like messes up your team more. And it's not more so the shield value, it's more so just the positioning difference. But this is a really big change, the Mage spell power. Maybe now there's going to be a comp that revolves around Mage Ahri. But not only that, there's going to be reroll Mage, and I'll talk about that later on why it's going to be strong. They're also buffing Nami. They're also buffing Annie, but whatever. Spirit attack speed, they're just tuning down Force Spirit to slightly nerf the Force Spirit Aphelios comp, Force Spirit Zed comp, and I can see that. I think GA Ahri frontline was a little bit too strong. Fortune, I'm not going to really go over this. Fortune right now is already strong. If you hit like a Fortune Tom Kench early game and you find a random Annie, or you get like a random Jinx from a box, but I don't think it's consistent enough ever where it's going to be a viable comp, and I like that. I think when Space Pirates were in meta, it was actually just toxic. Like, you can't, a lot of times the Space Pirate player, you're just playing for second, and I think that was really unhealthy. But anyway, I'm not going to really talk about Fortune. I think it's still really strong early game, but it's probably going to be a little bit stronger later, but it's probably not strong enough for it to be meta. So the champions, Diana is just getting early game buffs. Diana 4 is staying the same. I definitely agree. I think the early Moonlights are kind of weak. Same as Lissandra. Lissandra's just getting extra damage on her Q. That is fine. And then here's the Nami buff. It's just the stun duration, which is actually really valuable because it's actually 2x. Because if you're running Nami, you're almost always going to be running Mage. Vayne attack speed is actually pretty good. I said that I was going to say a strong opener, but I think another strong opener is going to be Vayne with Nidalee, Jarvan, a random Warlord, and a random Keeper. I think the reason this is good is because Vayne actually transitions you into Dusk Riven, and now that Cultist is being nerfed a little bit, I think Nidalee and the Warlord opener is going to be one of the strongest. It's probably going to be the strongest opener there is, apart from like Frontline plus like random Shade Zed. But I'm talking about like a natural opener without like a specific chosen. But for the tier 2s, Annie is getting slightly buffed with the shield damage and also the amount of shield you're gaining. It's pretty relevant. I think if it were only Annie being changed, I don't think it's that relevant. But because Nami's getting buffed, Mage is getting buffed, and Annie's being buffed, and in addition to the roll odds being reduced on 8, the 4-star or the tier 4s on 8 being reduced, I think that the reroll comps are going to see more play, and that's why Annie getting buffed, Mage getting buffed, TF buff, it means we're going to see a lot more reroll Mage this meta with carry TF. But anyway, Aphelios, it's just earlier Aphelios. I think that is acceptable. It's just the tier 1 and tier 2. Usually on stage 3, when you're playing a reroll Aphelios, you're playing stage 3 Aphelios or tier 3 Aphelios. But maybe now you can get away with tier 2 Aphelios, but I still doubt it. I don't think it's that big of a change. Hecarim quality of life, I definitely see that. The Jax buffs are actually really big. A lot of times I was actually streaking mid-game with a random duelist and eventually finding Callista and running 3 cultists. But cultists did get nerfed, but the thing is this Jax buff is actually ridiculous, especially with duelist. And Chosen Jax is one of the strongest mid-games now. And then tier 3s, I think this is just a quality of life. I think Xin Zhao doesn't really have a place because of duelist, but maybe you can run some Xin Zhao Jax mid game with Warlord, as I was saying about the Warlord opener. Jinx spell not being an Ashley spell. I don't think Ginsu is ever going to be best in slot anymore. Maybe it still is good. Maybe it's still good enough to be best in slot, but it's definitely tuned down to Jinx's ability no longer being able to perma-stun. Yuumi 3 quality of life buffs, that's fine. Oh, Veigar actually has a weird change. They're changing Veigar so it targets lowest health instead of lowest percentage health, but to compensate, they're lowering the amount he can farm and the amount of damage he is doing on 3-star, which is acceptable because if you think about it, in Brawler Ashe, let's say, imagine the fight starts and Veigar instantly kills Ashe. Like, the fight's actually just over. So I think it's smart for them to change that. So I'm not entirely sure how this is going to impact the meta, but we'll see. Riven, don't really read into this. You lose 5 damage on the Qs, but everything else stays the same except for Riven 3. That is definitely needed. I think Riven 3 was an instant win. The only thing that beats Riven 3 is Jhin 3 and Ashe 3, but Riven 3 it's a good change, I think. The Shen armor being buffed, that's fine. I think Shen was one of the weaker mystics. I would take a Zilean 1 over a Shen 2. They're also buffing his mana, which is going to make him a little bit more playable. Lee Sin mana change makes him a little bit more playable. I mean, they really are buffing the duelist, so I wouldn't be surprised if reroll Yasuo was going to see a lot more play, especially with the shop changes again. Set, even though this is a nerf, I'm telling you that I don't even think it's that big of a nerf, because a lot of times Set would actually bug. It would start casting its ult and then die mid dash and then lose its mana and then go do sit-ups. But now if you solo frontline Set, which you should, it'll almost always get bursted and then go do sit-ups at full mana and come back and instantly ult. The amount of fights where Set ults twice was pretty low anyway. I think Set was like a early game deal damage or come back and just burst the whole board type of champ, and it's like a one-time use. Yone quality of life, that's good. I think Yone was really bad, but now he's pretty good. Zilean can no longer cast ult on himself. I can't really tell. I think Zilean was really strong. I could definitely see why he got nerfed, but I can't really tell how this is going to impact him. I think we'll have to see. Luden's slight buffs, can see that. I still don't think it's going to be very good. Shiv slight buffs, I don't think this was needed. The times you build Shiv is really unique, and I think I talk about it in my item guide. Like, Shiv is a good item when you do feel the need to build it. So I don't think they needed to buff it, but don't start building Shiv for no reason. Just because they buffed it by 5 damage, it's not that valuable. Sunfire Cave, it's still probably going to be one of the stronger items. This nerf was definitely needed, but the reason Sunfire is good is because Belt and Chain are 2 items that don't really fall into best in slots for any champion. So just being able to use Belt and Chain for a really good generic early game DPS frontline streak item was pretty good. So 1 second to 2 seconds is fair. I still think Sunfire is going to be really good. And then the bugs, don't really worry about it. It doesn't really matter. But yep, that's going to be a patch review. Let me know if you guys liked it. I'm not sure if I'm going to be continuing these. I feel like anyone can read it, but let me know if you guys like my thoughts on how it's going to change the meta and stuff like that. Peace.